do you disagree with me that a simple phone call to those evacuees to determine what happened wouldn't have ascertained immediately that there was no protest? I mean, that was a piece of information that could have been easily obtained.
Well, but Senator,
within hours, if not days.
Senator, you know, when you're in these positions, the last thing you want to do is interfere with any other process going
I
on.
realize that's a good excuse.
Number two, well, no, it's the fact.
We were misled that there was supposedly protests and then something sprang out of that, an assault sprang out of that. And that was easily ascertained that was not the fact. And the American people could have known that within days, and they didn't know that.
With all due respect, the fact is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make? It is our job to figure out what happened and do everything we can to prevent it from ever happening again, Senator.
Joining us now is Republican Senator Ron Johnson, the man doing that questioning that led to that now infamous soundbite from Mrs. Clinton, who many believe would very much like to be the next president of the United States. Senator, good of you to be here tonight. What were you driving at in that exchange?
Well, let's face it, the administration did mislead the American public for a couple of weeks, and I was just asking the simple question, why didn't you call the survivors? Now, that's certainly what I would have done. First of all, just to find out how they're doing, can I do anything for the family, but then to find out exactly what happened. And, you know, I think the reason she got so testy is a pretty uncomfortable question, and I think she felt culpable. And there's no doubt about the fact that security requests for increased security, not only those requests went unanswered, they actually ramped down security. And so, from my standpoint, Megan, that was a clear dereliction of duty. Those 4 Americans didn't have to die. A small contingent of armed guards would have prevented that attack, I believe. And so I think Mrs. Clinton has to feel responsible. You know, in this book, apparently she's claiming responsibility. But what's she claiming responsibility for? Ramping down the security? Is she claiming responsibility for sending Ambassador Stevens there in the first place? I mean, I don't know what she's claiming responsibility for. Bottom line, I don't think she's taking responsibility at all.
She's still trying to say that this may have been about a video. I mean, she's still now saying that, even though we know that's not what it was about. And in fact, now we've learned that it was the administration, it was the White House that pressed to have that narrative put out there to the American public so that we would all believe this is about a video and not a failure of policy, because we saw that in the Ben Rhodes email that was circulated prior to Susan Rice going on those talk shows. When Tommy Vietor, a national security spokesman, was asked about it by our own Bret Baier, about whether he was the guy, he as the White House guy at the time, was the one who changed those talking points that the White House had previously said it didn't have its hands on at all. Here's what he said to Bret Baier. Listen.
Did you also change attacks to demonstrations in the talking points?
Maybe. I don't really remember.
You don't remember?
Dude, this was like 2 years ago. We're still talking about the most mundane
it is the thing
process
that everybody is talking about.
So he's pressing him on changing the talking points. But the thing is, Senator, her defenders say, what is your theory? That she completely made up the business about the video because she wanted to protect her own political neck?
Well, you know, Megan, one thing people haven't paid much attention to is we know very little about what President Obama or Secretary Clinton did that night. But we know they spoke about 10 o'clock, and then at 10:08, the State Department issued a press release that started talking about inflammatory material on the Internet, basically the video. That was a couple minutes after the President and Secretary of State talked. Now, what did they talk about? Were they, rather than talking about what they needed to do to send whatever military assets to help those folks in Benghazi, or were they really talking about how can we cover up our dereliction of duty?
Do you think that exchange you had with Hillary Clinton is going to become an important moment in her presidential aspirations?
I think it already has been. I'm sure she regrets it. But, again, what you really have to concentrate on is, what are they trying to cover up? And it really is, and the biggest outrage is what they didn't do prior to the attacks, the security that wasn't provided, the security that was actually ramped down. And that's what the American people need to concentrate on. And Megan, the other thing I point out is put yourself in the position of the Secretary of State welcoming home those bodies of those 4 dead Americans. Now, would have you taken that moment to demonstrate genuine human compassion, offer your condolences, offer the condolences of a nation, Or would you seize upon that moment to basically plant and perpetuate that cover-up? Because that's what Secretary of State Clinton actually did. When she went to the father of Tyrone Woods and said, you know, we're going to bring that video producer, we're going to get him arrested, we're going to bring him to justice. That's just a craven political act.
And he was, of course, later arrested. Senator, thanks for being here.
Have a great night.